Hello, everybody. So, we have been talking about religion and religions. And the question remains, I think, what do we make of that subject of religion and religions in the 21st century? That seems very important to me. Now, not very long ago, my Italian friend said to me, she thinks that the world has gone worse because fewer people believe in God. Frankly, I couldn't disagree more. And it is not difficult to prove that in the name of religions, over the centuries, millions of people have had to succumb and have had to live through terrible situations because of religions. Let me just remind you of a few of the conflicts of today, rather than those that we have seen in the centuries ago, like between different religions, like, for example, between Hindus and Muslims in India and Pakistan, or between Buddhists and Muslims in Myanmar, or between Jews and Muslims in Israel. And it's not only between the different religions that we have these fights, it's also within the same religions. Let me remind you of Protestant Christians and Catholic Christians in Northern Ireland, or the differences between Sunnites and Shiites, which are both Muslims, in the Near East, or very recently, of course, between Orthodox Russians and Orthodox Ukrainians. But even so, my Italian friend, like many others, would think that we need religions to be good people. Do we? Let me tell you a story. When a few years ago I was still working in the women's shelter, and because I speak French, I had become the person to turn to for the French-speaking Black African women. And I had been able to help one of them particularly in her difficult way into a new self-determined life while and after living in the women's shelter. And one day she introduced me to a newcomer to the women's shelter, another French-speaking Black African woman, even if from another African country. And she told this newcomer how she was grateful to what I had been able to do for her, and ended her account by saying, and you know, Britta doesn't even believe in God. And the newcomer laughed out loud. And she said, you know, I have a long experience in people helping me. And in my experience, it's the non-believers that help most, quickest, without demanding questions, and be just there to help. So do we or don't we need religions to be good people, to be decent people? Personally, I don't. Of course, we need rules and regulations. That's without doubt, we human beings. But for me, a worldly constitution, like we have in my country, is fine with me, and it's all we need. And I don't need the idea that there is a God who will punish me if I'm not a good person. And that is the reason why I would try to be. No, not for me. I have a very simple reason for trying to be a decent person. Certainly not always succeeding in this, but trying. And my reason is a simple reason. As I've said before, life on earth is very difficult for all of us most of the time. And we can only make this life any better if we live with each other peacefully and in a kind way and treat each other well, and also be kind to animals and be good to our environment. And that is the reason why I try to be a good person. But if religion, whichever, you know that I'm talking generally about religions, but if religion, if the idea of this higher being is important to you, fine with me, but then you absolutely need 21st century regulations and rules. The holy books are simply too old. They come from times in which life was totally different from life today. Therefore, these old books can't help us in our lives today. Therefore, I would like to ask everyone for whom the idea of a God is important, get together and write a new 21st century holy book. And get together with people from all the different religions to whom this is important. And please, don't start off from your old holy books. Don't. They are simply too old to have much to do with our modern life. Start anew and start from life, not books, life. What do we need? What kind of regulations do we need to be able to live peacefully with each other? That should be the basis of your new holy book. And another point would be important to me. Don't let that be done by your priests, imams, rabbis, or whatever you call your religious leaders. You should do it, because you know about everyday life. And we need regulations for everyday life to live peacefully with each other. That is why you should do that. And one very last admonition, start it soon. Please, we're waiting for you. And I hope I still live to see that book of yours. Goodbye.